Grace and peace, Rev C here. Excuse me. In this video, we are going to begin a series on Theology Proper. Theology Proper, or was the study of God. And I believe that this is a topic that is hugely missing in a lot of circles in churches. We have such a low view, an unbiblical view of God. And so we're going to be looking over the next couple of weeks at Theology Proper and how God reveals himself to us. So grace and peace, come on in. Now, God is knowable, but God is not fully comprehensible. So to say that he is incomprehensible is to assert that the mind cannot grasp the knowledge of him. So our finite minds cannot grasp the infiniteness of God. God can be known as he allows himself to be known. We can read all the systematic theology books. We can get all the degrees, but we have not tapped the surface of knowing God. So, yes, God can be known only as he allows himself, because our human minds cannot fully grasp God. Our human minds cannot fully grasp God. But the great thing is, and the awesome thing is, that because God himself is the source of our knowledge of him, he allows himself to be known. But the good thing is, when you think about it, it's really gracious that God invites us to know him. God invites us to know him. Grace and peace, everyone. Type of one as you're coming in. Do you guys? You can put yes, no. Do you believe that God can be fully understood and fully known? Yes, you're coming in, in the comment section. Do you believe God can be fully known? So God invites us to know him, and he graciously reveals himself to us. And so what we're going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks is Theology Proper. We're going to be looking at the attributes of God, the names of God, and things like that. Now, when we say attributes, these are qualities that are intrinsic to a subject. They're inherent to that thing. They identify, they distinguish that thing. But I want to call the attributes of God, borrowing this terminology from Ryrie, the perfections of God, because God is perfect. His attributes are his perfections. So we're going to see that God is absolute perfection. And so his attributes, they're going to be his perfections. So we're going to jump right in. We're not going to waste time, and we'll get into the natural or the moral attributes of God, the absolute, the relatives, the communicable and versus the incommunicable attributes, those that he doesn't share with us. We will get into those. But let's jump right in. The first one that we want to tackle is omnipotence. Omnipotence. When you guys think of omnipotence, what definition would you come up with? You know, you can put that in the chat as well, or in the comment section. When you think about omnipotence. So, omnipotence is God is all powerful, and he is able to do anything consistent with his own nature. Now that's important because we can get into, God has not chosen to do, is there certain things God can't do? Yes, God cannot lie, things like that. So God self-imposes limitations on himself. God has not chosen to do all the things consistent with himself. So when you think about the omnipotence of God, he is all powerful. Now, all of God's attributes, as we're going to see, work together at the same time. They're all fully active. They're all fully going on. So when we look at God being omnipotent, all powerful, let's look at some verses here. God is in control, and that's very important as well. God being in control. He's in control of his nature. He's in his emotion, quote unquote emotions. Genesis 17, verse 1. That's where we want to start. Genesis 17, verse 1. I'm trying to get the screen up here. And it says, now it happened that when Abram was 99 years old, Yahweh appeared to Abram and said to him, I am God Almighty. I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be blameless. Walk before me and have integrity. So here we see one of the names for God, El Shaddai, all powerful. The all sufficient one. So there El Shaddai, even that name shows us that God is all powerful. Next, let's look at Exodus. Exodus chapter 6, verse 3. Exodus 6, verse 3. God says, and I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is covenant language. Whenever you see Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, he's referencing covenant. It's a marker of the covenant. And said to him, he said, I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as God Almighty, El Shaddai, the fulfiller. But by my name, Yahweh, I was not known to them. So here, Exodus 6:3, God says, I am El Shaddai. I appeared to each of them, letting them know that I am the one who fulfills the covenants. All right. There's some other places. We look at 2 Corinthians 6:18, Revelation chapter 1. We see that is revealed as the Pantocrator, the Almighty, the Almighty ruler. God is in control. Let's look at Jeremiah 32. Jeremiah 32. Jeremiah 32, verse 17 says, Ah, Lord Yahweh, behold, you have made the heavens, you're the creator, and the earth by your great power and by your outstretched arm. Anthropomorphic language. Nothing is too difficult for you. Nothing is too difficult for God. Now, nothing can frustrate God. He has control over that. Nothing frustrates him. No one can tell him what to do and what not to do. God does things that are proverbially impossible. Like in Matthew 3:9, he says that, I can make the stones cry out and turn it. God can do that. He can do things that he uses as a figure of speech and a proverbial quote there, but he can do that. God, a name for God that we see often in Isaiah, I think is very important. We see him called the Holy One of Israel, right? That's a very important name for God in Isaiah. But here's another one. If you look at Isaiah 1, Isaiah 1:24. Isaiah 1:24 says, Therefore the Lord, Yahweh of hosts, the mighty one of Israel. Right there, this phrase is repeated over and over as well. Not only is he the Holy One of Israel, but he is the mighty one of Israel. And again, this occurs in chapter 49 and in chapter 60. He is called the mighty one of Israel. Now, when we speak of God's omnipotence, it's very important because God is always powerful and he is always competent. He never runs out of power. He has an unlimited power supply. He is constantly upholding everything, making the world move and work and all of this. And he never gets tired. He never gets fatigued. So God is always powerful, always competent. And then two aspects of when you think of the omnipotence of God. One, God can do anything he pleases. And some theological books will separate his omnipotence and his sovereignty. So God can do anything that he pleases. You got Job 23, Psalm 115, verse 3, Psalm 135, verse 6, Daniel 4:35. God can do anything that he pleases. Nothing is too hard for God. So the flip side of that is all things are possible for him. His power does not exhaust. His power does not exhaust. So God's omnipotence. God can do what he can do. God can do what he can do. And then God's power drives us, drives his people to worship. We worship him because he can do all things but fail. So his attributes drive us to worship. And so closing out on this aspect of omnipotence. God is entirely competent to accomplish all his righteous, loving purposes. God is entirely competent to accomplish all his righteous, loving purposes. He never runs out of energy, never runs out of power. That's the awesome God that we serve. So that is God's omnipotence. And then the last one I want to look at, because these things are so powerful, so amazing, is his omniscience. His omniscience. God's omniscience means he knows all knowing. Now, God knows all things effortlessly, instantly, all at once. He knows all things equally well. You know how you may be an expert in math, but you don't know, you struggle in English or something. God has all knowledge about all subjects at all time equally. All things, both actual and potential, God has knowledge of. God does not learn. He knows the number of the stars. Psalm 147, Psalm 139. Nothing, and then God's omniscience and your security as a believer is amazing, because nothing can ever surprise God in your life and cause him to cast you out. Nothing you do will ever come up and catch God by surprise and he kick you out of the family. So his omniscience is a comfort to us, but his omniscience is also a warning for us as well. God's own knowledge depends on God. So therefore, God's knowledge is self-attesting, self-referential, self-sufficient. God is the only being who knows himself perfectly and fully. God. God's knowledge is universal. He knows all potential possibilities instantly. And a great place, you go to right here in Isaiah chapter 40. Isaiah chapter 40. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 12 through 14. Isaiah 40, verses 12 through 14. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and encompassed the heavens by the span, and calculated the dust of the earth by the measure, and weighed the mountains in a balance, and the hills on a pair of scales? Who has encompassed the Spirit of Yahweh, or as his counselor informed him? With whom did he take counsel? And who gave him understanding? And who taught him in the path of justice, and taught him knowledge, and made him know the way of understanding? No one. God is the God of all wisdom. He's omniscient. He knows all things. Well, I pray that this has been a blessing to you. Hitting these first two of the omni attributes of God. And there's going to be many, many more to come. So hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Make sure you turn on all notifications so you will get notified when new videos like this drop. Well, this is Reb C saying God bless you, God keep you, and as always, stay in the book. And I'll see you on the next video.